All right, Alec, what's going on?
Well, um, me and you should probably hide our faces in shame, but going pretty good because we got Rusty back on
No.
here.
Hello. Always good to be here, guys. Really happy to be here. Really happy to be here,
Yeah,
actually.
really, bring it back to the Elgin gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although I'm
everyone
not
loves.
all that more successful than you two fine gentlemen, because I literally, well, we'll get to why we're here today. I'll let
I
Zach kick it
think,
right
I think
prematurely.
uh, it's debatable whether the Gents or the Rascals perform better in this challenge here. It's
It's fair.
debatable. In case you don't know what the Gents challenge is, it's a little thing where we go on our Discord with our gaming community, and we are paired up with people by random, and then you have to pick the game that the other person plays off of their list, and they pick for you. And it's an attempt to whittle down your backlog. You're assigned two games, and you can pick to play them in any order. If you beat one, you're a gent. If you beat two, you're a supreme gent. If you beat none, you're a rascal, and you have like 2 months to do so. So there's no excuse not
Real,
to do
really, no excuse. And yet,
it. And yeah, here's the episode where we make excuses for ourselves.
yeah, that's it. That's
Right.
what I'm gonna do. So I
So
mean,
when we were getting into the beginning of this challenge, we were all pretty optimistic. I'm if I recall correctly.
Oh, yeah.
I was gunning for that Supreme Gen. I was like, I think I can do it. I know Half Life isn't that long. I know Astral Chain isn't that long. And like, we're gonna do this.
We got
But
I was
this.
happy with
yeah.
both of my games. Return to Popola Croix and Bug Fables were both
Mm.
games I'd like to play. Bug Fables I want to beat anyway, so I'm like, it's easy. I'll at least beat that one, if not both.
And apparently that not so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll say I played like a total of 30 minutes on Return to Popola Croix, and that's how much progress I made on the entire
Wow.
challenge. So,
I thought you had some progress in Bug Fables, though.
Yeah.
well, that's
You did.
cheating. I had 10 hours in before the challenge started. So,
Oh, so you were
Mm.
gonna be doing Return to Purple LaCroix
yeah, well, I was going to do
beforehand.
Bug Fables. I was going to try to do both,
Well, yeah.
but
Okay.
yeah, I only had like 15 or so hours and that needed to be done in Bug Fables, I think.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just it's been a really busy time for me, but
Mm.
I still don't make excuses. Like I haven't had time to play really any games outside of it. Then I made the time to play a particular game that we reviewed last week,
Ooh.
but I made time for that instead of the Gents Challenge, so I had to prioritize there.
Yeah.
But
Same for me. And they yeah. I mean, I will say I did put quite a bit of time in Half Life Two. Um. Uh, because I actually started playing back in September when this first started. Um. And I made a good like six hours of progress, I would say. And then I went on vacation. And then I came back from vacation, and a new Mario game had came out. And
Mm.
by a new Mario game, I mean the collection had come out.
classic,
Forgot
So
about
I
that.
was like, okay, well,
excuse,
I gotta play Mario Sunshine,
great
right? So I played
excuse.
Mario Sunshine, and then reveling in that, and also being like, wow, I can understand, like, going back to it, like, I'm not as I'm very fond of Mario Sunshine, but I think the flaws are like becoming to me are becoming more apparent with that game as I grow older. I didn't really try out the other ones too much, Mario 64 a little bit, but
Do you,
regardless, I was like, hmm,
I was gonna say, Alec, do you think that would have changed if they like updated those games to be like the Mario Odyssey engine at all?
I don't think so. I don't
Mm.
think so because I mean maybe if they had well maybe if they had changed maybe if they had changed some of the jank because the problem I've always had with Mario Sunshine is that Mario 64 can get by on being sort of like buggy at times or like kind of jank
Yeah,
occasionally.
it's the
I would say
N64.
Mario 64 was pretty stellar for the time period it came out. It was the first
Mm.
3D game. I don't really honestly have too many problems with it, but with Mario Sunshine, I feel like every time I play that game, I encounter some like weird or crazy bug where I like glitch to the floor, or I end up like on the bottom of Pianta Village, like the bottom, like below the tree, and I don't
Yeah,
die, or
it's quirky. It's
it's
a
very
quirky
weird.
game. It's charming.
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely charming, but like but then it's like it feels like they sort of cut some corners in terms of like areas where they only give you like seven worlds or seven areas, and then Everything else is filled in by blue coins, and they're not really the most fun things to track down. Um,
I know what you mean, but
but you're
that does
wrong.
not excuse that does not excuse your Gents challenge
Oh, no,
failure.
no, no! It doesn't excuse it at all. It doesn't excuse it at all. So I spent time on that, and then work happened, and then we had our horror month, and I felt like every ounce of free time I had, I was doing stuff for that. And then, even though that wasn't the case, it just always feels that way. And also, Destiny 2 has a new expansion coming out next week, and they're sunsetting a bunch of old content. So I've been playing with my friend Chris, and so every amount of free time I get home, and I'd play that instead also, because there's a lot of content that I haven't done that's being sunset. And then it came to like towards the end of October, and I was like, oh no, I haven't like put any progress in this thing. And so I will say this. So I prioritized adulting on that Saturday. I was like, all right, I bought a car. I went and I bought it. Yeah, I traded in my old car. I got a new car. We were there for like 5-6 hours. It was a long time to wait for things to happen. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna get home. I'm gonna just play Half-Life 2. I should be able to finish the game before it. And then I'd forgotten, oh no, I have a movie date with my friend Dubs, so we're gonna have to do that. So we watched Justice League for Halloween, because what's more horrifying than that? And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay. So we gotta. So then I was like, all right. Well, I still might be able to do this. So I started playing, and about 10:30, maybe close to 11 o'clock, my brother calls me on Xbox Live, and we just start chatting, and I told him where I was at one point because he's a big fan of the game. He's like, "Oh, you're right around the end of Act 2." I was like, "Oh no!"
Out of how many acts?
3.
Okay.
And I was like, "It's like 3. If you think of it as a 3-act structure." He's like, "You're towards the end of Act 2," but it was like 11 o'clock, and I was like, "Well,
this is
I'm not finishing this." But I kept playing. I stayed up till about 3:30 in the morning, just playing the game and talking to him, which was really nice. I don't get to talk to my brother as much as I'd like to, so that was fun. But I probably stopped playing around like 2 or 2:30 because I was just like exhausted. So anyway, all that to say, I didn't. I'm a rascal. How did you fare though, Rusty? You fared somewhat better than we did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to toot my horn too much because my life has changed dramatically in the past like month and a half. My wife.
You're talking about adulting, yeah.
Yeah. So my wife, she changed her job. She's continuing her master's program, and we bought a house. So like,
it's like you're now in a house now.
Yeah. So I'm in my little game room here. My life just basically got flipped upside down. And just the process of moving, and then too, like with her changing her job, just benefits changing and utilities, and just the shift of all of that is just a really exhaustive process. So when we moved into the place, I just felt like, on top of work and moving everything and unpacking with boxes everywhere, it was one of those things that like I still had a desire to play games, but I just wanted to veg out with something. So I went through like Far Cry 5. I recently beat Far Cry Primal. I started Days Gone. Just kind of these open world games where I could just mindlessly explore and, complete side quests, complete main story quests with not a lot of thought, because the games that I was tasked with playing were Kirby Planet Robobot on 3DS, which is kind of a game you can kind of mindlessly play. It doesn't require a lot of astute attention to, the story and everything else that's going on. But the other game that I was really excited that I think E. Skilliam tasked me with playing was Flower. That game company's, I believe, second game, the spiritual successor to Flow. And that's a game you don't want to just mindlessly, kind of tired or whatever, turn on and play through. It's something you really want to, and at least in my opinion, make sure you're kind of awake and ready to go with that type of game. So
an experience kind of game.
It is an experience. I would very much like Journey. It's not necessarily a game. It is something you experience. And so it got down to the wire, and I knew that, like, thankfully I was tasked with something like Flower, where you can play through it in one sitting. It's 2 to 3, depending how many the completionist type stuff you want to do, you can finish in about 2 hours if you want. So Friday, I wrapped up work. This was, I guess, would have been like the 30th or the 31st. It was the 30th, I think. Finished work, got off work early, and I sat down. I had this couch over here. You can't really see it delivered. And I was like, what's the first game I want to like sit in my game room? Because prior to like all of this stuff that's going on, like I painted the room here, shelving units, everything I assembled, everything was downstairs, the PlayStation, the TV, all that stuff. So I was kind of playing the Far Cry stuff in our living room. But I was like, what's something that I can make a memory with the couch, the game room, the setup, the whole nine? What's the first game I want to play beginning to end? And I thought Flower is a perfect game that you experience in this new place that I'm going to make a lot of memories in. So after work on Friday, grabbed a beer, sat down, headphones in, kicked my feet up, and played through Flower beginning to end. And honestly, I was blown away. Anyone that's played Flower and certainly Journey, you can attest that it's something that you experience. It's something you don't forget. And it's just a mind-bogglingly good game. And I'm also very fortunate that I played Journey for the first time just a few months ago on Twitch. And I didn't really know anything about Journey. Actually, speaking of, I'm wearing just
oh yeah.
I'm wearing a little Journey shirt here. But I was thankful enough that like I didn't really know much beyond like you go up a mountain or whatever and you potentially meet other people when you play Journey. I didn't really know anything about it. And similar to Flower, probably even more so with Flower, beyond the name and kind of just maybe thinking about what it might entail, I knew nothing about the game. So sitting down and just starting it, you're just this, well, you're actually kind of almost like in an apartment building and you see this like wilted flower seemingly dying, and you kind of zoom in, and it all uses the six axis controls because it was meant to be played on the PS3, and then I think Blue Point Games remade it for the PS4, and so that's what I ended up playing on was the PS4. And at first it was kind of off-putting because that kind of control scheme just doesn't really feel right, but once you start playing that game, it almost couldn't be played any other way. Like playing it with go ahead.
Definitely one of those games that was like came out in that period of time.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that it made sense because I think Journey had some of that, but they allowed you to play with the control sticks because it just made sense to play Journey that way. And so Flower, it's definitely a testament to the time it came out. But yeah, I don't want to risk spoiling it. I do want to kind of temper my thoughts on it just because, like, I don't know if Zach, if you've played it before, or even people that listen to this, if they haven't played it before. I could talk it up, but I can go through beginning to end what I think it's about. But I think very much like Journey, it's so much left up to the interpretation of the player in terms of the story it's telling. It's kind of poetic in the way it all goes down. And even kind of reading up on Genova Chen, the main director of both Flower and Journey, I actually kind of wrote down just a few kind of snippets about what he said, which I'll get to shortly. But all in all, I would say it wouldn't necessarily match my love of Journey. And I think a lot of that has to do with, playing something like Journey. It is something you want to be fully locked into as the player, and you don't want to have a lot of outside distractions. However, I think playing something like Journey for me for the first time, and the way my playthrough played out, where I met someone who was also playing it for the very first time, playing something like that in front of an audience and being able to express and feel the raw emotions that game evokes in front of other people, it just kind of made it that much more special. And so part of this Gents challenge was it takes two. So you created two separate lists, and Flower was on a list of games I meant to stream, but to add another thing onto the life things that happened recently, my computer kind of crapped out. I sent it in, and I found out that it's beyond repair. But I couldn't.
You just got that thing like not that long ago. That's
a year ago.
Yeah, I was like, that's horrible.
And it's like a top of the line.
I can remember. Yeah, I can remember you talking about it like on the podcast.
Yeah, so that was kind of a bummer. But now they sent me a check, and I can kind of build. I'm in the process of building a PC. But
Very cool.
Do you just
Very
get a
nice.
letter? Do you just get a letter back that says it is beyond repair?
It is
Literally.
beyond repair.
literally, my little warranty, it was like a 3-year warranty. They said, we have delivered our service to you. We can't repair this machine. We're sending you a check in the mail. It was like 2 sentences.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's
So yeah. So yeah, I mean, part of me wishes I could have experienced Flower on stream, but then a part of me is kind of like, no, like I'm really glad that I was tucked into my game room. I got to just play through that entire experience by myself. And honestly, afterwards, I was kind of tearing up at the end for very different reasons than I did in Journey. But at the end, after playing it, it really felt like I had played through a Pixar short film. Like that's kind of the best way I could describe it, where a lot of Pixar short films kind of tell a story without anyone actually talking, and you really kind of get what the story they're trying to tell. And I felt like Flower does that in a more obscure way, but they still tell a story that's left up to the interpretation of the player or viewer if you're talking to a Pixar short film. And it was just really special. I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I've always I remember when that first came out, and I remember people saying like, wow, like we have like really great indie games on the scene. Like that was right around the beginning of the huge indie boom, because you had Braid in 2006, which was kind of a huge like the beginning of a lot of this stuff. But then you had Super Meat Boy in 2008, and then that whole summer of games that they had that summer in like 2008, 2009 or something.
Oh yeah,
was like, was just like
came out, stuff like that.
Yeah,
too.
there's tons of stuff came out right around that period of time, and then that game company started to make a name for themselves in that way. So with Flow first, but then Flower especially, where people are like, wow, you can tell like really artful games. Like this seems to be like, this might be where the innovation is like kind of really going on in the games industry. So yeah, very cool. I'm glad you get to have the experience. That actually also reminds me of there was it was like a blog post I read like a long time ago of some of you probably neither of you have heard of him. His name is Slow Beef. So you could claim that he is the origin of the Let's Play on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh,
So
really?
okay, so Zach knows. Yeah. And he wrote a blog post at one time where he was kind of like regretting like the whole process, because he's like, the state of Let's Play right now is just like, he's like, I watched somebody play through Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, and they were just like joking and making quips through the whole thing. And it was like, that game is a very personal game, and it's like, why would you? And it's like, at a point where someone would be watching that, it would be like, what's the point of even buying it now? Because you had the whole experience ruined for you, that you also had like somebody like trying to be a funny man over it, and he was like, kind of sucks, but I think there is a benefit to having like, there are times where like, man, I would really like to stream something, just be able to have like, even if just a couple more people in, just to kind of like share the raw emotion. Sometimes it allowing yourself to be more vulnerable can be interesting, especially in an experience like that, or just to have fun talking to people and playing a game. But I think there's definitely also something to be said of just enjoying something personal. You don't have to share it with everybody. You can just sit and have a nice experience for yourself. So,
Yeah, which I agree completely, because now I kind of have the juxtaposition of Flower experiencing it here by myself, and even Lauren wasn't around. She was just myself, and then Journey kind of experiencing it with other people, and so I kind of have those two different experiences for two really great games.
Very cool. Well, I will say Half-Life 2, it's one of the best first-person shooters I've ever played. I'm not exaggerating. The game is amazing. It still holds up.
Story, gameplay, like what really stands out?
Story is really amazing. Gameplay, they drip feed you guns. So when you start getting used to one, they're like, oh, by the way, here's another. And they're like, oh, by the way, here's another. And like, I was still getting guns, and I wasn't expecting to. Like 8 hours into, every level feels a little bit different, or has like a different little gimmick. There's some levels where you're trying to trying to be a little bit more undetected. There's some levels where you got to use your shotgun because the things that are after you don't really respond as well to other guns. There's a level where you're recruiting other people as you go throughout a city, and that's the level I'm on right now. And it's awesome. It's just really, really fun. I think the thing to me is that the reason that the story still kind of holds up is because this was really like one of the first games. It probably wasn't the first game, but it was one of the first games where it was like everything's happening in real time. Like all the cutscenes happen in real time, so you don't get like another cutscene. You don't get thrown out of Gordon Freeman's body. Everything's in first person. Gordon Freeman doesn't say anything, but it still manages to tell a compelling and interesting, impactful story, and help you both make you feel like important and empowered in the world, because everyone's always relying on you, and it's really a cool, as you gain more guns. Gravity gun is awesome, by the way. The gravity gun is the coolest thing. But it's also fun because you get to see like how that game influenced Portal, and Portal was like a student project that they were making using Source Engine, and it's really fascinating to see like, wow, you can see where a lot of like they used assets from this game in that game. And that's another masterpiece, really. So, yeah, I think it still holds up. I think it does show its age in some ways, namely checkpoint system. I think that's not great. I mean, my brother was saying on PC you got quick save, so you can that's pretty easy, but you don't really have that luxury on a console. So it just uses checkpoints, even when if memory serve, because I think I tried to save one time. And I went to load the save, and it just loaded me to the checkpoint anyways. So it was like, oh, okay. There was no point to that, I guess. And the checkpoints can be kind of unforgiving at times. So that's not my favorite. But early 2000s, and I think the game still is spectacular. So
do you know what happens at the end of the game?
I don't. And I don't really know what happens at the end of episodes 1 or 2. So I know like generally kind of like, well, I know episode 2 ends on a really big cliffhanger. I know that, and then I know the new VR game that Valve made, Half-Life Alyx, actually does like a really good job of setting up for if they're going to make a Half-Life 3. They legitimately set up for it.
They have to.
At this point, it's like now that they're getting back into game development, they do have to. They really do have to. But I'm looking forward to. I'm still going to keep playing it, and I said that with the other game that that we reviewed, and I am. I'm gonna finish both of them because I have enjoyed both of them, for varying reasons. Because Half-Life 2 is just like an amazing game. While the other game is fun. That's all I'll say about it for now. Check our review of that instead.
So Bug Fables is great though. I want to play it. But it's like true Paper Mario that Nintendo won't give us, but they're doing it for us. It's like a true Paper Mario fan ripped it straight off. It's great.
Well, Paper Mario is still going pretty hard in terms of music, though, as I have heard some of the music from Origami King, and it's like stupid good. So there is that, but it's just too bad that the actual game development part of it feels very stilted.
As someone who hasn't played a Paper Mario game, Zach, I know you're a tremendous fan of the series. I have a local kind of thrift store, kind of almost like a pawn shop type place. I found Super Paper Mario there on the Wii. Is that a good place to start, or should I just like hold out on trying to get something on Virtual Console for the original N64 version? Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, definitely, Super Paper Mario is great, but it's not like the quintessential like. If you can get Paper Mario on the Virtual Console, that's a great place to start. The original. I actually
picked it up recently, intending to play it at some point because I love that game.
Like that's how I beat it. It was like a few years ago on Virtual Console. So
yeah, and that game still, and you even said that game still holds up pretty well.
It ages so well. So it's like It's not like,
I
oof,
watched-
this
I watched
doesn't
this-
feel very good now. It's like I can go right from that to Thousand Year Door, and it's like they're
Yeah.
both right.
I watched speedruns of the original Paper Mario, so yeah, it's that's an entertaining, if not frustrating speedrun. At least the category I was watching for a while. It's like, wow, because it's so RNG based at the end, at the end of it. You're like you're like 2 hours and 15 minutes in, and then the whole thing is decided by like a 30% chance of something, and I'm like, that's not fair.
So I mean, what you have is the equivalent of the original Paper Mario trilogy, and then the prequel trilogy, which is Sticker Star, Color Splash, Origami King.
It's actually
Which is-
really accurate. Really accurate, because like Super Paper Mario is different, but it's still like excellent.
It's
like
still
the sto-
highly regarded, and
yeah,
it's like
the story is like great, is amazing. Like it's like this wild for a Mario game to be as like kind of serious and dark as that game gets.
and the departure that it took wasn't as offensive as Sticker
Yeah.
Star, and then from then on out they took it in a different direction. You know,
So like Color Splash and Attack of the Clones, like where does it rank in the prequel trilogy?
Sticker Star is probably the most egregious. I
Sticker
think
Star is the worst.
Everyone say, yeah.
for sure. Like Color Splash, I think is objectively better, so it's not a perfect analogy, but
Yeah.
you know, according to our freaking poll in the Discord, people think that the Phantom Menace is worse than
Yeah, whatever
Attack
that's
of the
all about.
Clones. So
Yeah, I was like, how is that possible?
no way.
Not a chance.
No.
But all right, thank you for joining us, Rusty.
Absolutely, guys. Anytime. Always happy to
Yeah.
be here.
Oh, you were gonna say some there was a word from the developer, right?
Yeah, quick things if you guys will let
Just
me.
a-
yeah.
Humor me.
Yeah,
really
no,
quickly.
I did kind of want to hear about that. Let's not leave that unresolved.
Yes, this is directly from like a Flower kind of wiki page that I was reading on. It was intended by Chen, again, the original director. And actually, just a quick tidbit. So Nicholas Clark and Genova Chen were, I guess, college buddies at USC, and Flow was actually like a Flash game that they created in college together.
Oh,
And then eventually they moved on into game development and created Flower. But Chen intended, or Flower was intended by Chen to provoke positive emotions in the player, which it does to the nth degree, and to act as a, quote, emotional shelter. He described the game as an interactive poem exploring the tension between urban and nature. He decided on nature theme early in development process, saying that he had this concept that every PlayStation is like a portal in your living room. It leads you to somewhere else. So he thought, wouldn't it be nice if that portal would allow you to be embraced by nature? Which I thought was a really cool like analogy. So I just wanted to.
yeah. Sony definitely seemed to kind of adopt that, and particularly in their marketing in that period too. Like, what was it to the I don't remember what it was, when all those game characters were like in that tavern and they like all like raised a glass and they were like to, I don't remember the name. It was like to Michael or something.
I'm not sure.
Okay. If you haven't seen that, you should go take a look at
To
that.
Michael.
So
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was Michael or Jason.
To Jason.
Jason, raise a glass to freedom. That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
not.
All right. So Rusty, where can people find you?
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter, Ari Lewis 2011. I also record a podcast with my brother-in-law, Otaka Brothers. You can find that on all your favorite podcasting platforms. And I actually just started another podcast with another friend of mine called Box Office Bliss, where we're just going to be reviewing movies and TV shows.
Saw that, and I haven't I'm giving it a listen yet, but I'm looking forward to it because that sounds fun.
I saw that was teased, but then I didn't see after that. Like, have you posted something?
Yep, so we have like kind of the introductory episode 0 out there right now, just kind of introducing what the show is going to be about. And we're kind of segmenting it into seasons. So the first season is us actually going through each of the Fast and the Furious films, because my co-host and I are actually pretty big fans of those goofy movies.
So they are going to be like each episode is for each movie kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yep.
cool.
That's cool. I like there was it reminds me of two things. One is there was a podcast where I think it was for every week for a year, these people would watch oh my god, I don't remember. It was an Adam Sandler film They watched it once a week every
Wait,
for an entire year.
the same film every
And they would record a podcast after they watched
Oh
it.
no.
And you get to see the degeneration, like how they lost their minds.
Oh my word.
Was it Jack and Jill?
No, it wasn't Jack and Jill. I don't remember what it was. It was one that was like Sandler and all his buddies. I mean, he has all his buddies and all of them, but it was one they were like a bunch
Sandler,
of
Kevin
they
James.
were like they were like a bunch of dads or something. I
Oh,
don't remember.
yeah.
Grown-ups or
Yeah, Grown Ups 2 specifically. Grown Ups 2 specifically, and the reason that they watched that one is because we haven't even seen the first one, and I guess I listened to like this is like in college, but I listened to like a couple of the later ones where they were like starting to lose their minds, and they kept talking about like how I keep thinking that they're referencing something in the original Grown Ups, and I'll never know because I'm never going to watch it.
So what do they talk about each time?
Basically, just their experience, like the new things that they start noticing, and like.
so interesting.
Yeah, it was very funny. And the other thing that kind of reminds me of, in the same vein of losing your mind, was a podcast that was done where a couple of Annie-tubers reviewed every episode of the series Aramanga Sensei. And I'm not going to go into the details as to what that's about. You may be able to guess from the title. It's pretty terrible, and it was a very entertaining podcast. I haven't even watched the show, but it was very entertaining because they described it how awful it was. And in fact, I picked up a figure from that series just because of the podcast. I have no interest in the show, really. I mean, I do kind of want to watch it because I would like to watch each episode and then listen to the podcast, so I have like new context for it. But anyway. I look forward to Fast and Furious films, but I feel like now I need to watch them too.
Be fun, yeah.
That was one we were talking about. At some point, we should do that.
You guys should.
Also.
I would love to hear your thoughts.
I've only seen from 5 on.
Yeah, I've only seen Fast 5, and then I think that might be it.
I would encourage you guys to watch the movies before you listen to any of our episodes. We're releasing the first episode on Thanksgiving Day, so.
Yeah. Ooh, okay.
Right.
Nice.
So, Rusty, what video from Tarqaron should our viewers watch if they're watching this video?
I would suggest everyone goes out and first watch The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix, Mike Flanagan's new ghost story, and then go and listen to or watch your guys' review. It was great. I actually agreed with many of your opinions. So,
which opinion did you agree with more?
If I had to, let's just say this, if I had to give it a number, I would come in probably about at a 7.5, 8.
Oh, okay.
So it was good. Didn't reach the levels of Haunting of Hill House, but I don't think it ever could have. It's just a different story. So, and I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah.
All right, so subscribe to the channel, subscribe to our podcast feed, like the video, leave a comment, hit the notification bell, and follow us on Twitter at Tarqaron TWO. All right.
Yeah, all those things, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, he joined in. All right.